President Trump made good on his promise to sign the Republican tax bill into law by Christmas, even though it wasn't his original plan.
I was going to wait for a formal signing sometime in early January, but then I watched the news this morning and they were all saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it by Christmas? You were one. But will he sign it by Christmas? And I called downstairs. I said, get it ready. We have to sign it now. We were going to wait till January 7th or 8th and do a big formal ceremony. But every one of the networks was saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it for Christmas, before Christmas?
Shortly after that signing, Mr. Trump left Washington for his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, taking no questions from reporters before heading out for the holidays. Caitlin Huey-Burns is a CBSN political contributor and national political reporter for Real Clear Politics. Caitlin, thanks so much for being with us. The president also spoke about selling this tax bill in 2018. Do you think he's going to need to be doing a lot of selling? We know he's a good salesman.
Exactly, and Republicans are kind of depending on that. Remember, the polls right now show this bill to be pretty unpopular at this point, and Republicans have been making the case that, look, once people start seeing the results of this legislation, whether it's in their withholdings around April or May or several months later, they'll start to view this more favorably. And so that's certainly what they're counting on, and they have to do a lot of work on this because of those polls and because they're heading into a midterm election year where they're facing lots of headwinds.
Yeah, let's listen to what he has to say about selling it.
I don't think we're going to have to do much selling. I think the corporations that are giving billions and billions of dollars away to their workers, and many more are coming, I think that's really what's selling this, maybe better than anybody could, including myself. But I think come February, when they open their checks and they see, wow, what happened? I have a lot more money in here. I think that's really going to be something very special.
So he sounds pretty confident there, but what do you think Democrats are planning to do with this plan?
Well, Democrats are certainly planning to run against this plan in the 2018 midterms, particularly since they think this plan favors the wealthy. They think it favors people like Donald Trump, and they want people to be asking the question about why some folks at the top are getting a tax cut, a bigger tax cut than they're getting. It is a big risk, though, because if people start to see some kind of difference, however big or small, in their paychecks, and they start to like this bill, Democrats will be at risk of campaigning against a tax cut that people are starting to see and perhaps enjoy. And so it is a bet, but they're also trying to make a bigger economic argument with it. And you know, they're banking on the president's approval rating staying low and that having an impact on the popularity of a bill like this.
Absolutely. Now, lawmakers are off for the holidays after passing a short-term spending plan on Thursday, but they really did kick a lot of fights down the road into January, didn't they?
Exactly.
I mean, immigration, healthcare, just to name a few.
Yeah.
And there are some who are pretty upset that some of this stuff did not get addressed before the holidays.
Exactly. There's nothing like a holiday deadline to get people wanting to get out of Washington and kick the can down the road. We've seen this kind of over and over and over again. What's interesting here is that Republicans they control both chambers, but next year they're going to have one senator. They're going to be down one senator. Doug Jones of Alabama is going to be replacing their Republican senator there. So the margin for Republican control in the Senate is going to be very narrow. And there are lots of issues that will serve to be issues in the campaign season. Immigration chief among them. They have to figure out what they're going to do about DACA. They have to figure out how to extend the CHIP program, for example. There's a short-term fix here. So still a lot to do, and they have to fund the government again in January.
And it seems like they sort of inherently understand that they need to, at this point, make some outreach to Democrats. Even, you know, President Trump tweeted about infrastructure and that he expects to be able to work with Democrats on this one.
Right. A little wishful thinking, but also reflective of the political reality, since they're going to need need Democratic support for anything else that they do next. Infrastructure is something that does usually enjoy bipartisan support, but the devil is always in the details, especially with something like infrastructure. And there are divides among Republicans on the spending front and the debt front on that. There are also divides among Democrats. What's been really interesting to watch this year is that no Democrat has crossed the aisle on the Senate side, at least, to vote on any Republican Trump legislation. And we thought at the beginning of the year that a lot of those folks in red states and states that Trump won, who are going to be facing really difficult re-elections next year, would be incentivized to work with this president.
Is that telling that they feel very confident about this?
It's very telling about what they think of the environment heading into next year, that the president is not going to be a benefit to them. And so they're going to still have to walk a fine line here. It could be a risk. It is a risky bet, but it's a bet that they think looks good right now.
How important is infrastructure going to be in 2018? I mean, it sounds like they've got a lot of more important or more pressing issues to get to before they get to infrastructure.
Certainly have a lot of more pressing issues. The president did campaign on infrastructure. A lot of people thought, if he had started with that infrastructure bill, that would have kind of endeared him to some more folks, that would have been reflective of a want to kind of work across the aisle. And now there is so much, increased partisanship. It's hard to see something like that getting through.
Absolutely. And we know that they do have to deal with DACA.
That's right.
Right at the beginning of January, I'm sure, when they're back in session.
Right. There's a deadline there, as well as the government funding and a whole host of other things that they need to finish with serious deadlines. So,
Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much for that.